So hello everybody, a very good evening to all of you. We are very, very happy to welcome you all on this platform, the 6-day series by Mr. Premraj Kalapandan. We are doing this series through Power Up. My name is Jaya Obhan and I am the founder of Power Up. We are a business community coming together to support each other, to co-create, to bring in opportunities for entrepreneurs and we have already done a lot of exchange of business. A lot of synergies have already happened and we are very, very happy to be doing this today. So I would like to hand it over to Premraj, but before that, let me just tell you, Premraj is an author and a futurist speaker on leadership and management. He has spent 37 years in banking with experience in public and private sector. He was also the CEO of the BPO arm of a leading private sector bank. He is the co-author of 3 books, and all the 3 books hit the #1 spot on Amazon best-selling list. Wow, that's amazing. Congrats, Premraj.
Thank you.
Views expressed by Premraj have been published in Economic Times, Business Standard, Financial Express, Indian Express, Mumbai Mirror, and other periodicals. Now, Premraj hails from Mumbai and resides with his wife, son, daughter-in-law, mother-in-law, and pet cat-in-law. Now, let's hear it from him. What is this suspense about cat-in-law? And over to you, Premraj. Let's have this series with you and let's start. Over to you, Premraj.
Thank you, Jaya. Thank you, Jaya. Thanks for that kind introduction. First of all, I'll clarify what that cat-in-law is.
Please do.
That cat came in with the marriage of my son. That cat belonged to my daughter-in-law. So that's how we call it, that cat-in-law.
Okay, nice.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening. People are on mute, so.
Yeah, it's okay.
Good evening, Premraj. Nice seeing you here, Bindu Madhav.
Yeah. Thanks, Bindu. Tonight, we have one more show.
Seeing you.
Sir,
Our
to
guest-
hear you.
Jaya, you'll have to mute everyone, please.
Yes, it's
Good evening,
done.
everyone. Tonight,
Good evening, sir.
Tonight we have on our show a guest who is an international banker. He is Arshad Nadamal. Arshad is a talent manager based out of Muscat for the last 14 years. Though he is in Muscat physically, his heart is in Mumbai, where he grew up, studied, and worked in the first part of his career. He has been in the banking sector for the last 27 years. The first 14 years was with a public sector bank in Mumbai and then a new generation private sector bank. In 2007, he went to Muscat and is now heading the learning and development of a leading bank. He has a string of education certifications, most of it from the United States, which is helping him in developing the training and learning needs of his organization. In his younger days, he was quite prolific and proficient in sports. As a cricketer, he used to open the innings for the bank he represented. And today, he's in the same role, opening the series of talks for us. Arshad is married. His family comprises a wife and 2 young boys. Arshad, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Prem, and that was a very flattering introduction. Thanks a lot.
You deserved it.
Wonderful to be part of this initiative that you're leading, and a privilege to be the first speaker here. Thank you.
Our privilege to Arshad. We'll start with, you were part of branch banking dealing with customers. What is it that made you shift into training?
So you are taking me back maybe 25 years back. Yes,
27 to be precise.
I started in branch banking. I started in a public sector bank. For about 3 years I was there while I was doing my graduation. And then I moved into HDFC Bank, spent about 11 years there. And the initial days I was in branch banking, used to do a lot of customer service, worked as a teller, then moved, graduated as a branch manager, was the branch manager for 3 different branches. And then there was an opportunity to move into training. HDFC Bank was expanding. They had only a 2-member training team then, and they wanted to expand the training team where they wanted regional heads, Western, Northern, South, and East. So one of the trainers there, who was a very well-respected senior colleague, he requested me whether I'm interested to join training. So my initial answer was no, because even though I knew the subject matter, so the training was supposed to be on banking, products, and customer service and systems and so on. Even though the topics were what I was comfortable with, it was what was frightening was speaking in front of an audience. So
Okay.
I was not very sure whether I will be able to stand and talk for the full day and sometimes days together. So initially I said no, but after a few days, I think they identified someone. That person resigned and the position was vacant again. They approached me again, and then I said, I've done a number of years in retail banking. I was also itching for a change. The next position would have been either to move as a cluster manager, which a few years maybe down the line, or move into some other function. So this training opportunity was something that excited me at that time, and I took the plunge. Initial few days, very nervous to talk to an audience, but seniors there were hand-holding me. They did a train-the-trainer kind of session for me. And the initial agreement was that it is a 2-year position and then I can move back to business, because I was interested to remain in business. But after a few months, I enjoyed the role. And then now it has been almost, I should say, 15 years in learning and development, different kinds of roles. And now I enjoy when I talk to people, influence them, guide them, mentor them, coach them. I feel a sense of fulfillment. So I think this is the field that suits my kind of personality, and I'm very happy to be part of learning and development.
You did a great job in HDFC Bank, because though it's 13 years since you have led the bank, people still fondly recollect the days.
Oh, is that so?
Yeah.
That's a compliment.
So you have been the head of learning and development in 2 different banks in Muscat for the last 13 years. How different is learning and development setup from that in India?
Okay, so the first bank that I worked for in Muscat, I was not the head. I was a manager there. In the second bank now where I'm working, I'm the head of learning and development. Yeah, initially when I came to Oman, the difference that I felt was the pace. The pace in India is very hectic, very frantic, very fast and quick. Whereas in the Gulf, my experience was it is a little laid back, a little slower. I shouldn't say little, much slower. So in India, particularly the private sector banks, the catching up that you had to do, the running up that you had to do, the number of days you clock as a trainer, the kind of training that you do, everything volume-wise was much more. Here, volume was lesser. That was one major difference that I found. In terms of work, again, in India, we were used to staying late hours, commuting for long distances and so on. All that was a change, So here, timelines are not so late. You finish your work and then you can leave. In terms of commuting, it's not that stressful. You drive to work in about 25 minutes, 30 minutes. That's it, and stress-free commuting. So those were the big changes. In terms of work, the organization that I work for here, they are much smaller than say HDFC Bank. So the volume of training that we do in terms of training days is lesser as a trainer. But the amount of training that we are doing for the trainees, for the employees, on an average is much more. So when I remember when I was in HDFC Bank, the average training days used to be around 2 or 3 days per employee on an average at the organization level. Here we do around 7 to 8 training days per employee over the year.
That's
So
substantial.
more than double the number of training days for the trainee. But for us as trainers, we are a bigger team and much lesser in terms of our own training days. But then we also hire external trainers. Sometimes participants go outside and attend training programs and so on. So again, to bring out the differences, what I feel is here the banking products are much more vanilla products. The capital market is not so well developed. Money market is not so well developed. So the products are all simple savings and fixed deposits and vanilla credit cards and so on. Whereas we had much more variety of products in India. That's what I feel.
Okay. You are much traveled. You have your roots in Kerala, was brought up in Mumbai, and now settled in the Gulf.
Yeah.
You worked in India for a considerable period of time before moving out. How different is a working atmosphere in the Gulf when you went there in 2007 to what is the prevailing condition now due to the corona pandemic?
Yes, so I was born in Kerala. That is where my parents hail from. But entire schooling, entire post-school academic studies, even all my work experience was in Bombay. So I'm a Mumbaiker by heart, and my parents still stay in Mumbai. My brother, sister, they are all from Mumbai. So as you said in the introduction, I am a Mumbaiker by heart. And after coming to the Gulf, as I told you, work-wise, lifestyle-wise, there was less of stress, less of the rush that we are used to in Mumbai. So you don't see so many people on the roads. There is not so much noise out there. So when I come to Mumbai during the leave here, the first thing that I get is the sound outside the airport. The moment you come out, you get the the taxis honking and the rickshaws passing by. So that sound, all that is missing here. Here it is much more quieter and much more. I should say, in the public domain, there is not so much of crowd. People are in their cars or inside the malls or inside the offices, not out on the road. That is one. The other work-wise, the other thing is working hours. So here we start at 7:30 and end by 3 o'clock. So per day working hour is much lesser compared to Mumbai, maybe an hour or half an hour less. Weekends are off, so 2 days off we get. So you get a lot of time, personal time to spend with family or to socialize, or if you have some hobbies, you can spend your time on those kind of activities. And that is what I benefited. I did a few certifications whenever I used to get free time after work. I used to log in or used to read books and completed quite a few certifications, international certifications from the British Psychological Society, from the American Talent Association for Talent Development, and so on. So that was the plus side. You could utilize the time to upgrade your skills and to hone your craft.
Yeah, nice to know you've spent the time that you get, almost half the day off, doing some certificate courses and upskilling yourself.
Yeah, that's a big plus.
Yeah. In Mumbai, you are a keen sportsman, having played cricket at competitive levels. Any sporting exploits in Oman?
Initial days, yes, I played some weekend cricket. It was all tennis ball, not proper cricket. We used to play in the weekends. But again, because of the climate here being very hot, there are only 3 months that you can play, November, December, Jan, sometimes into Feb. So we used to have some weekend kind of cricket. I did play for the bank team also for some small duration, but nothing very serious. So the serious cricket that I played was for Indian Bank, and to some extent HDFC Bank.
Okay. Okay. Now let's move to another area. Research shows most employees struggle with relationships and managing conflicts. As head of learning and development, how do you address these issues?
Okay, very interesting. Yes, so as learning and development, we do training needs analysis across the organization. So we go to business heads, we go to unit heads, branch heads, and so on, and identify what are the areas that people need upskilling in. And increasingly, what we have seen is, at least in the initial part of my career, the needs used to be very technical, banking laws or banking regulations or operational knowledge and so on. But increasingly, what we have seen is now managers and division heads, business heads, they are identifying softer aspects as needs for improvement. So whether it is conflict resolution or negotiation skills, relationship skills, and so on. Emotional intelligence is coming out as a big piece. So we have been slowly aligning our programs from highly technical oriented to now a mix of technical as well as soft skill programs. So we do a lot of soft skill programs. If I look at the mix, I think it should be 50-50 right now.
Okay.
And our in-house trainers, all of them are bankers turned trainers. So initially we looked at bankers turned trainers because the need was primarily technical. But all of these trainers are now finding it important to move into the softer skills space. So there are some of my colleagues who are experts in negotiation skills, who are experts in problem solving, and they've got themselves certified on these areas. And we do a lot of leadership program. So our programs are now designed based on the needs of the people.
That's nice. That's
Also,
nice.
what we do is before some of these programs that we do, before we do the program, we do an assessment just to see what is the level before the training. We do the training, and then we perform another assessment after the training. So we get the value addition that we did during the training. So there are psychometric tools, there are other assessments that we use to find out what is the value added by the training. And the training doesn't stop in the classroom. There is a lot of hand holding that is done after the classroom. So there are, for example, WhatsApp groups where we engage with them. There are sometimes, personal calls done by the trainer to the participant to find out, are they implementing what they learned in the classroom at the workplace? Do they need some support in execution, implementation, and so on? And there have been even visits made by trainers to the work locations. They go to the workplace and then do some hand holding as well. So training has now evolved. It has gone, I think, beyond the classroom. We do a lot of coaching as well. So coaching is primarily one-on-one. So very, very customized and very, very niche. It's not a one size fits all. So the coach identifies what are the gaps or what are the competencies that need to be developed, and then the coach does one-on-one mentoring once every 15 days or once every week, and then this goes on for months together before that change is reflected in the behavior. So as you rightly said, yes, there is a lot of emphasis now on relationships, on understanding self, understanding others, and how you manage these dynamics. And we are doing a lot of those kind of things. And I'm sure many other organizations, all other organizations are also doing the same.
Nice to know that we are moving with the times.
Yes,
And
indeed.
when we talk about this, when we talk about employee engagement, just an offshoot of what you said about soft skills, how is it that you take care of empathy and compassion? I'd read somewhere empathy and compassion are going to be one of the most important tools or important things that will be, or important skills that a manager would have to have in the coming days. So any stories you have on compassion and empathy that has happened in your training sessions?
Yes, there are quite a few, and let me just recollect. But just to talk about employee engagement, uh, increasingly we are seeing research that organizations have this challenge of disengaged employees.
Right.
Employees whose values or whose ethics don't exactly match with the organization's values and ethics, or some are actively disengaged. They are working against the organization. It's
Yeah.
better that the organization lays off these kind of employees, but the point is, trying to identify who they are, where they are, and what harm they are causing to the organization. So employee engagement again is a thing that is being spoken about in almost all circles nowadays. In every corporate meeting or HR initiative, there's a lot of emphasis laid on employee engagement, and organizations are trying different tools. So what I read about is in the US, the Gallup's survey that they do, it's a very popular tool where they ask about employee engagement and then find out what is the level of engagement. And I read somewhere 30% of employees are actively disengaged. There are only 30% who are engaged, and the balance are just somewhere in the middle. They are neither engaged nor disengaged. So increasingly, organizations are trying to see how more and more employees can be engaged. Obviously, employee engagement increases the productivity in the organization, reduces the retention rates, and reduces customer complaints, and so on. We have read a lot of things where uh, purely by employee engagement and passion, organizations have become more productive and profitable. Within the organization that I work for, there are some stories that I can think of. One what clearly comes to mind is this. In the organization that I work for lady employees, if they deliver a child, then for about 1 year, till the child attains 1 year, the employee is allowed to go home early 1 hour or come late 1 hour, just so that she can look after the baby or feed the baby and so on. So that I thought, when I compare this to some other organizations, that I thought was a very, very thoughtful and employee friendly initiative by the organization. And there are a few others. Now, one incident that comes to my mind is we had a person who used to work in the HR department. He was an expatriate, and here sometimes the government comes up with regulations that expatriates cannot work in certain roles because of localization initiative that they do. So there was some regulatory requirement that in the HR team, expatriates should be laid off. So there was this gentleman who was very experienced, used to do a techno-functional kind of role in HR, looking after the HR systems and also handling some HR compensation and benefit part. So it was time to break the bad news to this gentleman, but the bank did not want to do it, but it was being forced because of the regulatory constraints. This person also had, his children studying in critical years in the schooling, high school, and grade 10 and grade 12. So the bank worked out a creative solution. They did ask him to leave HR, but they upskilled him and created a position for him in the IT department.
Oh, that's nice.
So he had some background of database administration and so on. He went through some training, did some certifications, and then he was back in the organization in the IT team. There was a small gap that he took. And now he's doing very well in the IT team, in the applications, in the system applications team. So it comes. What I feel is that was a classic case of, the bank staying loyal to an employee and retaining him through a creative method, and demonstrating to the entire workforce that if you're good, the organization will stay with you. and his engagement levels must have shoot over the roof. He's a very, very loyal employee, and it would have rubbed on not only on him but also many others. And we have seen over the years he's a star performer. So that was a very good example of how the organization takes care of its employees and increases engagement. And it also brings out the point that you mentioned, compassion.
Hmm.
Compassion and empathy, understanding the situation of that individual and then supporting him.
I wish all companies were like this, having compassion and empathy towards their employees, which unfortunately isn't. Both of us know that.
Yes.
As head of learning and development, you have an internal team of trainers. How often do you hire external trainers?
Okay. So different organizations follow different models within the geography that I am working in. There are some companies where they have a very lean model. So they don't have in-house trainers at all. Everything is outsourced. So there's only a training manager or a training administrator who takes the needs and then outsources it to other external trainers. The model that we follow is we have a mix. So we have an internal team of bankers turned trainers, as I mentioned. They do a lot of technical programs as well as a lot of softer programs, leadership programs, and even coaching assignments and so on. So that is one activity that we do. But we also do some outsourcing. For example, there are areas where we may not have internal expertise, or uh, we don't need to have, because the training might be, maybe 2 days a year or 3 days a year, or very infrequent, where a full-time internal trainer is not justified. So let's say somebody says, I want IT SQL training, or, I want something very, very niche, treasury derivative training, which could be, 2 days or 3 days in a year. Such kind of training we outsource.
Okay.
So that could be around 10% or maybe 15% of all of the training that we do. But what we also have here in Oman is we have a college of banking. And all banks are contributing to this college of banking. So whatever we cannot do in-house, what we do is, and banks like us do the same thing, they outsource this to the college of banking. So the college of banking will have a batch size. So if, let's say, I have only 2 people or 3 people needing a particular training, instead of waiting for a batch size which may take time, I can nominate these 2 or 3 people to the college of banking. Similarly, other banks would have similar need. They all come together, and then the college of banking organizes programs for them. Yeah, so that is another way that we meet our needs. So we do some through our internal team, some through college of banking, and some we do hire external trainers. They could be, experts from anywhere in the world.
Okay. So this college of banking is a good concept. You said you hire trainers, external trainers. To give your employees a different perspective, do you hire trainers from across the globe?
Yes. So we do get trainers. In case we don't get trainers in Oman, then our next shop is we go to UAE. Dubai being a hub of a lot of events and activities, we find out whether there are, because the distance is just about 1 hour by flight, or 4 hours by driving. We find out if there are trainers available there. But we don't stop there. We source trainers from India. Sometimes we source trainers from the UK, from the US. So sometime back we did a fraud training program where we had trainers coming from UK, risk management trainer. In the past, we have had trainers from different parts of the world coming and delivering. So what matters is the expertise and not the place from where they belong.
Okay.
In fact, a few years back, we had a big training engagement with London Business School. So we had trainers coming from London Business School once every month for 3-4 days, training the senior management team. and this continued for about 5 or 6 months. So that was a very successful initiative that we did, and bore fruits for us.
Okay. In the post-COVID era, what changes have you had to make in your internal setup to continue training?
Yes, so it is something that we are living through right now. What we did initially was based on government directives and based on the things that were happening around us. We put a stop to training because it involved people gathering. There was no social distancing in a classroom. So we ceased training for about a couple of weeks, and we were getting our act together. And then we quickly graduated to virtual training. So uh, then we looked at what platforms can we use for delivering virtual training, and Zoom is one that we used initially, but later on we found even MS Teams. We use a lot of MS Teams. MS Teams works well for us because most of our employees have got access to MS Teams, and now almost all our training we've converted them into virtual training. So whether it is a technical training or whether it is even a soft skill training, we have converted them into virtual training. So only thing, they become tighter and shorter because we don't have lunch breaks and tea breaks and those kind of breaks. And some of the activities have got modified. So where we used to put them into groups and discuss and so on, that has become now the rooms that we have in these platforms, the Zoom
Yeah.
rooms that we have
Breakout
and
rooms.
so on. So we have changed the methodology a little bit here and there, but we found it very smooth. The initial days we had some teething issues. People had issues in understanding the platform. For many of them, it was the first time that they were doing something in front of a computer or a smartphone. So getting them onto the platform, hand holding them and guiding them. But now we have reached a stage where people have accepted this as an acceptable form of learning. And the way I see it is this may continue. I mean, people may find it difficult to assemble in a classroom and employ social distancing and the safety measures that are required. So this kind of virtual training is going to continue, and this may be the way forward for learning and development.
Okay. This is now, but in the post-COVID era, after everything becomes normal, what changes do you envisage in the overall learning and development field?
So what I feel is increasingly there is a bent towards credible certifications. So instead of just doing a one-off kind of programs, people are looking at certifications which are guaranteed or which have the stamp of international certifying bodies. Yeah. So that is one thing where a lot of organizations are moving towards, where you have some kind of certification by some well-known bodies on the training programs. That is one. The other thing that I'm seeing is more and more coaching. So training is still where you have 20 people sitting. It is still a one-size-fits-all kind of solution. But now what people are preferring is, customized niche solutions for individuals. So coaching is going to become big. I'm already seeing it. There are more and more individuals coming across and saying that, there is somebody in my team who needs handholding in this area and somebody else who needs a handholding in this area. And the results of coaching are more tangible, and it involves some 360-degree participation of the peers, of the subordinates, of the bosses. So people are coming together to improve the performance of the individual. So coaching is going to be a big thing, and I feel it's going to play a big role in the coming days. Yeah. International travel may reduce. So we used to have training where people used to sometimes, go abroad in a big setup where there used to be 70, 80 people interacting. Those kind of trainings might reduce or may totally disappear. People may prefer a webinar or a virtual kind of things what we will miss out is, training is not only learning from the trainer, but it is also learning from your peers and discussion with your co-participants. So we may miss that for in the immediate future till things become fully normal, where, people are vaccinated and there is no problem in interacting and so on.
Okay, now on a personal level, what next for you?
Over the last few years, the dream that which most of us have is becoming independent as an entrepreneur. So thinking on those lines, uh, looking at learning edutech and learning technology, looking myself in this space. So building up competencies, analyzing the market and all uh, in the periphery. So as soon as I think I'm ready, maybe I will jump into becoming an independent entrepreneur in the training field.
All the very best for that.
You have been an example. I mean, I can see you being very active after your corporate life, and I've seen a lot of such people who are using their experience and then spreading it amongst people. And I see you as someone who's now not so much interested in the money making aspect. I mean, you're past that now. It's more of giving to the society.
True, that's true.
So that's the kind of stage where I think even I have reached, where you want to share what you've learned over the years with people, with youngsters. You want to mentor youngsters, you want to guide them and so on. And a lot of others are doing this. Even Jaya and team, they are also into this, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Arshad, we have some time. Do you mind taking some questions?
Sure. They're live questions or in the chat?
Live questions. Let me see if there is anything in the chat. There isn't anything in the chat. So live questions. If anyone wants to ask Arshad anything, please unmute yourself and shoot.
Hello, sir. This is Sagar Goriani from Bombay, India.
Yes, Sagar.
Yeah. I wanted to know when there is a conflict of interest between the interests of the employees and the company. The goals are same, but there is conflict of interest in the interest of employees and company, like we have in the CA profession. While we are doing articleship, we want more of leaves for our exams, whereas the company wants us to give our best and 100% in the organization. Not that they are not cooperative. The firm which I was working for was very cooperative, but many of my peers have been experiencing these problems. So how to come, to a solution with this? How to come at peace with this situation?
Okay, there is no easy answer. So what I feel is, if you are part of an organization and there is a conflict of interest, then the organization's interest always comes on top, because you are bound by the rules and regulations of the organization. But the way to work, the way out of this is a collaboration or cooperation. So the management and the employees need to work a middle path, where the organization's work is not affected. At the same time, the employees' interest is not affected as well. So most of the solutions that we have seen is where there is some kind of give and take. Both of them work out a compromise and then resolve the conflict. But if it has to be looked at from a very, very legal point of view, then I would say the organization's interest should always be on top of individual interest. If you think your interest is much more important, then you need to leave the organization. Unless Premraj, you want to add something to that?
No. What you said is right.
We do when we do a lot of new joinee induction training, we talk about this conflict issue. And one of the things that we say is this, the organization interest supersedes the personal interest if you're an employee. But most organizations which believe in employee engagement, they do support employees for their education. And as I said, it's a cooperation effort where they compromise So you go 1 hour early and we support you in you getting certified, but you compensate that by working on some other days or on weekends or something of that sort. You give and take.
A few more questions, 2 questions,
Yeah.
if you don't mind, if you have time.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Sir, many a times I've seen that many organizations, including my organization, there are peers, okay, who are very busy with doing their work, okay. They are not interested in helping the others who are new to that software or who are new to that type of audit. In that case, you are wasting the talent and the resource which you have in the organization by lack of, which is then it becomes because of lack of training. So how important is it to give training in the induction session so that they don't have to rely on the peers who are very competitive, and obviously they put their self-interest above the interest of others?
Okay, Sagar, in my experience, even though I am a part of learning and development and we do a lot of classroom training, I think all the classroom training that I have attended, it could be only 10% of the learning. 90% of the learning happens on the job. And I am lucky that I have got colleagues or seniors or mentors who were kind enough to show us the work on the job. Whether it was banking, when I joined banking, it used to be ledgers, manual ledgers, where you had to do a debit and a credit. And when I joined, I didn't know anything about bookkeeping, or I was not from an accounts background, but there were some seniors who showed us how to post an entry, and then end of the month how to do a balancing, and even counting cash. I didn't know how to count cash. There was someone who told me how to hold the bundle and count the cash. And these kind of training I never got in a classroom. And nobody, I'm sure people like Premraj or other experienced people here in the group, most of us would have learned this on the job. So learning on the job, there is this 70-20-10 model where they say 10% is the formal training that you get, the classroom training. 20% is the water cooler talk and the informal kind of learning that you get. But 70% of it happens on the job, either by the senior or by the colleagues. So if somebody is not doing that, then yes, we can sit and crib about it or blame that person, but we cannot change that person. What we can change is ourselves. So when we are dealing with youngsters or when we are dealing with people, we ensure that we pass on whatever we know. We spend some time in mentoring others, in spending time with others, or in showing to others. We become the change that we want to see in the society, as Gandhi said, right?
Sagar, your next question can wait for some time. Let someone else ask a question. Anyone else?
No, I'm done with my question.
Thank you.
This is Bindu Madhav here.
Hello, Bindu. Nice to see you.
Hi, Arshad. How are you? Nice to see you.
I'm
too.
good. Great. You have
Just
a thick
one
beard
quick-
like Narendra Modi now.
No. Let me be what I am.
There's another one. There's another Narendra Modi also on the call.
So a quick one, Arshad, when we talk about, what Sagar also mentioned about an individualistic performances. And when a grown-up organization needs many of such individual talents, but most often we see that individual performer keeps doing on his own, and at times we come to a block hole that the possibility is required to bring in all these talents together and move from me to we. For a successful organization, the team of talent is more required rather than individual performers in large numbers. So as a L&D, how do you look at that move, the concept of me as an individual performer to build as a team of performers, me to we, that we can call it as. So what as a management or a L&D you would like to throw a light on?
So what I feel is the values of the organization need to be demonstrated by the manager, and it needs to be top down. There are a lot of training programs where the juniors, when we train the juniors, the comment that we receive is, my boss should have attended this training, or my manager should have gone through this training. So I think organizational change initiatives should flow from top down, and the senior management should act as role models. So a very funny incident that comes to my mind is in one of the organizations that I worked. There used to be a uh, head of customer experience, and I was having a meeting with him, and he was telling me, customer is very important. We should do a lot of customer service. We should do a lot of customer service training and so on. And he was getting a call on his mobile phone, and he was ignoring that call. And then he was saying, this is one of the staff members who a staff member was his customer, but he was ignoring that staff member. And in fact, he was talking bad about that call to me. So he was someone who was uh, talking the talk, but not walking the talk. So as seniors, we need to act as role models, or at least it needs to be impressed upon them as L&D or as an HR. We impress upon the senior management that if there is a value or if there is a competency that the organization is talking about, then you need to be the role models. So if integrity is a value, or if customer service is a value that your organization is professing, then the senior management should demonstrate to the people, to the larger workforce, that they are living those values, and only then you will get engagement from the employees. And we have many examples where people who do the talking but not the walking, uh, their employees are disillusioned with them. I mean, this guy only talks and doesn't do the action. So I think it depends on how the senior management role models and demonstrates to the employees. Did that answer? Answer you?
I think it goes back to what you initially said, that the employee engagement by the senior management is a very play critical role over here. If you are engaged with such talent, then you can bring them together for a better resolution.
Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, there is that celebrated quote, I don't know by whom, but he said, people join organization, but they leave managers.
Absolutely.
So the organization might have attracted them, but at the management level, the line manager failed in getting this guy actively engaged into the role.
Thank you.
Hi.
Time for one last question.
Yeah, can I ask it, Premraj? Yeah, one.
Yeah, Vijay, please.
Yeah. So I just wanted to know. So maybe do you have a system where suppose where your training is actually done on a need or a skill-based assessment? So where let's say a certain employee lacks certain skills to go to the next level, and then you specifically train him to get to that level. So it's also the learning and development is integrated with HR from a growth perspective of the employee. So you build up his career throughout the journey. So every year these are the trainings he would need to grow up, and then maybe you monitor the progress and you integrate it on his long-term career path. So is that something which is done?
Yes, in all the organizations that I have worked for, two in India and two in the Gulf, training department has been part of HR.
Yeah.
So we work very closely with career ladders and career paths for employees. There have been many initiatives that I've been part of where we assess employees, find out their potential. So once we know that somebody has a potential to grow, then we look at him, look at those people as a individual cases and prepare a career ladder for them. Like these are his areas of strengths, these are his areas of improvement, and those improvements can be done through what mechanism. So can it be a rotation or transfer to some other department where he can be developed, or can it be that he's joined with another buddy or another senior to mentor him, or is it some classroom kind of training or certification that he needs? So the career paths are done not for all the employees, because that may become very work intensive and costly, but for the identified potential employees. Development centers are run by many organizations. I'm sure it's run in HDFC Bank, it's run in couple of organizations that I work for in Oman as well, where we identify certain employees and then we build a career path for them. The role is not guaranteed, but at least they are prepared for it.
Yes, agree.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you, Arshad. You have given us great insights on how a learning and development team works molding people. Sure,
Great.
those on this show will have some tangible takeaways. It was a pleasure having you with us. Thank you very much. Before we wind up the show,
please go on.
Yeah. Before we wind up the show, would like to acknowledge the help and guidance rendered by Chartered Accountant Abhijit Sansgiri. Thank you, Abhijit. And Jaya for giving me an opportunity to host a pack of the 6 shows. Looking forward to seeing you all for the second speaker of the series tomorrow at the same time. And now, over to you, Jaya.
And before that, can I say something, Mr. Premraj?
Yeah, please make it fast.
Yes, I would like to acknowledge the 2 men who I have worked very closely with in HDFC Bank. My name is Komal, and Arshad used to be one of my initial bosses. And the 2 things that he said about learning on the job, I've learned so much from him. I've done my master's in psychology and got into banking, and I was lost initially, but thanks to him and thanks to Mr. Premraj, I stuck to the bank for 14.5 years. And I really, they are the ones who contributed and molded and crafted my banking career and my growth. So I would like to acknowledge them on this platform. And of course, I can see Bindu and Suresh also. So some great men on this Zoom session, and I've worked with them. I'm blessed that I have had this experience. So good to see you, Arshad. Yeah, you spoke so well.
Hi, Komal. Nice to see you.
Hi.
Thanks, Komal.
Thank
Jaya.
you.
Thank you so much, Komal. You're making the best use of walk and talk ad that we've been hearing from Abhishek. So thanks, Parika. Thank you so much, Arshad. It was an amazing session, the kind of insights that you gave. I am also from a learning and development background, and listening to you, it took me back to those days when we used to have classroom trainings. Last 6 months has been more on the camera and on Zoom and everything, but it's been fun. And disengagement of employees is one challenge that I have been coming across all the corporates. So I have another vertical where we do a lot of trainings with the corporates. And employee disengagement, we try to do these accountability workshop where employees take ownership of whatever it is that they are doing, and hence binding the management and the employees. So it was great to hear about that. And I love what you said about the top-down, methodology. And Power Up is one such platform where we have brilliant leaders like Premraj, Abhijit, Sanjay Teli, Ayona Hegde, Mihir Koltharkar. All of these people have given complete support and guidance through and through to make this platform what it is today. And I'm very much thankful to all of them. Thank you, Premraj, for doing this series. It's amazing and people are going to learn so much. Abhijit is here with us. He's always there to support. Sanjay, Mihir and Ayona couldn't be here because they had preoccupied with something. Let me just wind it up quickly. Let me tell you what Power Up is all about. This is an annual membership program where we have 48 events. These 48 events are distributed into 2 segments. 24 are introductory meetings where only in-house our tribe meets. We at that point in time, we have very few guests coming in. We introduce ourselves about our businesses. We collaborate a lot. A lot of businesses generated. A lot of opportunities are, generated within the group and also from our other acquaintances. The other 24 are divided into, again, 12 and 12. So 12 are speaker series like the one we had just now. But we've also been fortunate to have the owner of Agile Pen, the CEO of Shemaru, and some very good brands that have associated with us and guided us, helped us with their experiences and strategies. And the other 12 are training workshops. Now we do training workshops about all kinds of trainings that entrepreneurs need. So we are coming up with the LinkedIn Essential, which Abhijit will be taking this that training workshop. And moving forward, we might have something on digital media. We might have something on leadership and all of these trainings which entrepreneurs require. So we have made a bouquet of this into 1 year. Every week we have our programs, and these sessions are actually a top up. So, I'm very thankful to Premraj for doing this, and I'm very glad. So I hope to meet you and connect with you soon, Arshad. It was really great connecting with you, and thank you everybody who has joined us today. And I hope I'm very sure that there have been so many takeaways, and we know so much more than we knew 1 hour back. So thank you so much for joining in. Thank you, Premraj, and thank
My
you
pleasure.
everybody. Speak again. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Jaya. It's been an absolute privilege, and Premraj has been one of my mentors in my initial days. So thank you, Premraj. Thanks a lot for inviting me and for all the support that you have been. Thank you.
My pleasure, Arshad, and thanks for coming.
Thanks.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.